Every student dreams of success. You dream of good grades, of making your parents proud, of building a future where your hard work pays off. But for most students, success feels complicated, almost unreachable. You sit in classrooms surrounded by books, deadlines, and expectations, and you wonder, what will really make me better? Is it intelligence? Is it talent? Is it luck? The truth is, it is none of those things. What separates great students from average ones is not brilliance. It is not natural genius. It is mindset. It is the habits, the choices, and the principles you live by every single day. Because being a better student is not about being born smarter. It is about becoming stronger in the way you think, the way you learn, and the way you handle challenges. There are 5 things that will transform the way you approach your studies and your life. 5 things that will carry you beyond exams, beyond classrooms, into the kind of person you are becoming. Master these 5, and you won't just be a better student. You will be someone ready for any challenge life puts in front of you. Master the art of consistency. When we talk about becoming a better student, people often look for secrets, hacks, or shortcuts. They want to know the fastest way to get better grades, to understand concepts more easily, or to perform well in exams. But the truth is, there is no magic formula. There is only one thing that separates those who rise to the top from those who remain stuck in mediocrity, and that is consistency. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how much talent you have, and it's not even about how motivated you feel on a particular day. What matters most is whether you can show up again and again and do the work that needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is the quiet power that compounds over time. Imagine you decide to study just 1 hour a day. At first, it doesn't seem like much. 1 hour feels small compared to the endless hours others might put in before an exam. But here's the difference. 1 hour every single day for a year adds up to 365 hours of focused learning. That is equivalent to weeks of preparation built steadily without stress, without cramming, without chaos. That is the power of consistency. Small actions repeated daily build a foundation so strong that nothing can easily shake it. Think about exercise. Going to the gym once will not change your body. Reading a single page will not make you knowledgeable. Practicing one math problem will not make you a master of mathematics. But do it every day, and the transformation is inevitable. The same rule applies to your studies. Consistency turns small efforts into massive results, not because of how much you did in a single day, but because of how often you showed up over time. The reason consistency is so difficult is because it requires patience. It's easy to start with excitement, to study for hours when motivation is fresh, but then it fades. The brain gets bored. The routine feels repetitive. And that is when most people quit. They chase intensity instead of consistency. They study 10 hours in one day, but then don't touch their books for a week. And when the exam comes, they panic because their preparation was built on bursts of energy, not on steady effort. The best students understand that it is better to study less, but regularly, than to study a lot but irregularly. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. Every time you show up, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that you can be counted on. You start to believe in your own discipline. This belief matters more than talent or luck. When you know you can rely on yourself to stay consistent, confidence naturally grows. And confidence is what helps you walk into an exam hall calm and ready, because deep inside, you know you have done the work day after day. Another hidden power of consistency is how it strengthens memory. When you revisit material regularly, your brain forms stronger connections. This is how real learning happens. Cramming may help you remember something for a short period, but consistency ensures that knowledge sticks for the long term. Imagine learning a new language. If you study it once a week for hours, you may struggle to recall words and phrases. But if you practice 15 minutes every day, the language begins to feel natural. That is the result of consistency. Consistency is also a mindset. It is not about waiting for the perfect environment, the perfect mood, or the perfect resources. It is about working with what you have, wherever you are, and doing something every single day. Too often, students say they will start when they feel ready, when they have more time, or when the conditions are better. But the truth is, conditions are rarely perfect. Those who succeed are not the ones who wait, but the ones who show up despite imperfections. They do what they can consistently, and that is what makes all the difference. It is important to understand that consistency doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Missing a day doesn't mean you've failed. What matters is getting back on track. The strength of consistency lies in the ability to return again and again, no matter how many times you fall off. The more often you return, the stronger the habit becomes, until eventually it feels natural, almost automatic. At that point, studying is no longer a burden, it's just part of who you are. Every great student, every great leader, every great achiever has built their success not on sudden bursts of inspiration, but on the slow, steady grind of consistency. It's not about how much you do in one day, it's about what you choose to do every day. Small, daily actions create momentum. Momentum creates habits, and habits create transformation. That is why mastering consistency is not just about becoming a better student, it is about becoming a stronger version of yourself. Learn to ask better questions. One of the biggest mistakes students make is believing that learning is only about memorizing facts and repeating them on exams. They think their value as a student lies in how well they can recite what they have been taught. But true learning is not about memorization, it is about understanding. And the path to understanding begins with asking better questions. The quality of the questions you ask determines the depth of your learning. Questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of curiosity. Too often, students stay silent in classrooms, afraid to look foolish, afraid to ask something that others might think is obvious. But here is the truth. The most successful learners are not the ones who always know the answer. They are the ones who are brave enough to ask when they don't. Every time you ask a question, you open a door to clarity. You take ownership of your learning. You turn passive listening into active engagement. Think about it this way. If you only accept information without questioning it, you are letting others do the thinking for you. But when you ask questions, why does this happen? How does this connect? What does this mean? You begin to see patterns. You begin to connect knowledge across subjects. You start to think critically instead of blindly accepting. That is the difference between someone who simply passes exams and someone who truly understands the world. Asking better questions also deepens relationships with teachers and mentors. Imagine being a teacher and standing in front of a class where no one asks a single question. You may assume they understood, but in reality, most are lost. Now imagine a student who asks not just, "Can you repeat that?" but "Why does this method work better than the other one?" Or, "How does this connect to what we learned last week?" That student shows not only interest but ownership. Teachers notice this. Mentors respect this. Opportunities often come to those who ask better questions, because questions show you care about learning at a deeper level. The act of questioning also builds problem-solving skills. Life beyond school is not about memorizing answers. It is about facing challenges without clear solutions. Those who ask better questions train their minds to look at problems from different angles. Instead of thinking, "I don't know what to do," they think, "What do I need to understand first? What resources can I use? Who can I learn from?" That shift from seeking answers to seeking understanding is what separates average students from extraordinary ones. But here's what matters most. Not all questions are created equal. There is a difference between asking questions for the sake of asking and asking questions that dig deeper. A shallow question seeks quick answers. A deep question opens doors to reflection. For example, instead of asking, "Is this on the exam?" you could ask, "Why is this concept important to know, even if it isn't tested?" The first question limits your growth. The second expands it. Better questions also come from preparation. You cannot walk into a classroom without reading the material and expect to ask powerful questions. Questions emerge when you have already engaged with the subject. When you struggle with a chapter, write down what confuses you, what sparks your curiosity, and what feels incomplete. Then, when you meet your teacher, your questions become meaningful. Instead of asking for the answer, you ask for understanding. This habit not only improves your learning, but also shows respect for your own growth. There is another reason asking better questions matters. It builds confidence. Every time you ask, you take a small risk. You put yourself in a vulnerable position. But the more you practice, the less you care about judgment. Over time, you realize that curiosity is not something to hide, it is something to celebrate. Confidence grows not because you always have the answers, but because you are not afraid to seek them. History shows us that progress is built on questions. Scientists, inventors, leaders, all of them were willing to ask questions no one else dared to. They didn't just accept the world as it was. They asked, why, and what if? That same spirit applies to you as a student. If you want to grow beyond the average, you must train your mind to ask questions that challenge the obvious, explore the unknown, and open new possibilities. Learning to ask better questions also changes the way you interact with your peers. Instead of competing with them, you can learn from them. Instead of hiding behind silence, you can spark discussions. Instead of trying to appear smart, you can become genuinely wise. Good questions invite collaboration. They make others think. They create a culture where learning becomes collective, not just individual. At its core, asking better questions is about shifting your mindset. Stop thinking like someone who is simply trying to pass. Start thinking like someone who is trying to grow. Every question you ask adds another layer to your understanding. Every question you ask brings you closer to mastery. Knowledge is not just about answers. It is about curiosity. And curiosity expressed through better questions is what will make you a better student. Embrace discipline over motivation. Every student at some point has felt that surge of motivation. Maybe it comes after watching an inspiring video, hearing a powerful speech, or receiving encouragement from a teacher or parent. In that moment, you feel unstoppable. You tell yourself that from now on, you will work harder, study longer, and give your best. But then a few days later, maybe even the next day, that spark begins to fade. You don't feel the same excitement anymore. You wake up tired, you feel distracted, and suddenly the promises you made to yourself don't feel as urgent. This is the trap of relying on motivation. It is fleeting, inconsistent, and unreliable. If your success as a student depends only on how motivated you feel, you will never reach your full potential. This is why discipline matters so much more than motivation. Discipline is doing the work, not because you feel like it, but because you made a commitment to yourself. Discipline is showing up to study even when you are tired, even when your friends are distracting you, even when every part of you wants to take the easy way out. Motivation gives you a push, but discipline carries you forward when that push is gone. Think of motivation like a spark. It can ignite you, but it burns out quickly. Discipline, on the other hand, is like a steady flame. It doesn't burn as brightly in the beginning, but it endures. It keeps going regardless of the weather, regardless of the circumstances. That flame is what keeps you moving, step by step, toward your goals. And the truth is, greatness in academics, just like greatness in life, is built not by temporary sparks of motivation, but by the steady flame of discipline. Discipline is about habits. It is about building a routine that doesn't depend on how you feel in the moment. For example, you don't need motivation to brush your teeth in the morning. You just do it because it has become a habit. Imagine if studying felt the same way. Imagine if sitting down with your books was as automatic as brushing your teeth. That's what discipline does. It removes the decision making and replaces it with consistency. And once you build that habit, progress becomes inevitable. Many students make the mistake of waiting for the right mood before starting their work. They say, I'll study when I feel motivated, or I'll start once I feel ready. But the truth is, you may never feel fully ready. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for perfect weather before leaving the house. You'll waste precious time standing still. Discipline teaches you to start, regardless of how you feel, and once you start, momentum takes over. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Another important truth about discipline is that it teaches resilience. There will be days when things don't go your way. When the subject feels impossible, when you fail a test, when you lose focus despite your best efforts. Motivation may disappear in those moments, but discipline is what helps you return. Discipline whispers, keep going. Try again tomorrow. Don't stop. That quiet persistence is far more powerful than bursts of excitement. Discipline also gives you freedom. At first, it sounds restrictive. Waking up at a set time, studying for fixed hours, sticking to a routine. But in reality, discipline creates more freedom than it takes away. When you discipline yourself to manage your time, you free yourself from panic before exams. You free yourself from the anxiety of being unprepared. You free yourself from regret. By doing the hard things now, you make life easier later. That is the paradox of discipline. It feels hard in the moment, but it makes everything else in life easier. Discipline is also about making choices. Every day, you are faced with countless decisions, whether to study or scroll through your phone, whether to complete your assignment or delay it, whether to review your notes or go out with friends. Motivation will not always guide you to make the right choice. But discipline is the voice inside that reminds you of your bigger goal. It reminds you that short-term comfort can destroy long-term success. It reminds you that every choice you make today shapes the results you will see tomorrow. Students who embrace discipline over motivation don't look for shortcuts. They don't rely on luck. They understand that success is not built in one day, but through repeated daily choices. They know that even 30 minutes of study done every day with focus is better than waiting for a perfect day of motivation that may never come. Over time, discipline compounds. The small, disciplined actions you take today stack up into knowledge, confidence, and mastery. What makes discipline powerful is that it is within your control. You cannot control how motivated you will feel tomorrow, but you can control whether you choose to sit down and study. You cannot control the distractions around you, but you can control whether you give in to them or not. You cannot control the difficulty of the subject, but you can control how much time and effort you put into it. That is discipline, focusing on what you can control and committing to it daily. In the end, the best students are not the ones who always feel motivated. They are the ones who have trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel. They know that motivation may get them started, but discipline is what will take them to the finish line. Discipline doesn't ask, do you feel like it? Discipline says, do it anyway. And that is the mindset that separates those who achieve their goals from those who only dream about them. Value time as your greatest asset. Every student is given the same gift every single day, 24 hours. It doesn't matter where you come from, how intelligent you are, or what your circumstances look like. Time is the one resource that is distributed equally to all. The difference between a struggling student and a successful one is not how much time they are given, but how they choose to use it. Time is your greatest asset, and once you begin to treat it that way, your entire approach to learning and life begins to change. Most students believe they don't have enough time. They complain that the workload is too heavy, that assignments are endless, that exams come too quickly. But the truth is, the problem is rarely a lack of time, it is how that time is managed. Think about how many hours are spent scrolling through social media, playing games, or watching television without even realizing it. A few minutes here and there may seem harmless, but added together, they become hours wasted every single day. Hours that could have been invested in growth, practice, or preparation. The best students are not the ones who have more time, they are the ones who value their time enough not to waste it. When you treat time as your greatest asset, you begin to view it the way you would view money. Imagine being given a set amount of money every day, and at the end of the day, whatever you didn't spend wisely would disappear forever. That is exactly how time works. Every day you are given 24 hours, and whatever you do not use meaningfully is gone, never to return. The question is not whether you have time, it is whether you are investing it in the things that matter most. Time management is not about packing every second with work. It is about prioritization. Successful students don't try to do everything. They focus on what matters most. They know the difference between urgent tasks and important ones. Urgent tasks demand your immediate attention, but important tasks are the ones that truly move you forward. For example, checking messages may feel urgent, but studying for an exam is important. Without discipline, it is easy to get trapped in urgency, spending hours on things that do not build your future. Learning to prioritize time means asking yourself, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? Another way to value time is through creating routines. A routine is a structure that ensures your time is not wasted on constant decision making. Every time you sit down to study without a plan, you waste minutes deciding where to start. Over weeks, those minutes become hours. But when you have a set routine, specific times for studying, reviewing, and resting, you remove the guesswork. You simply follow the plan. The best athletes, musicians, and leaders all follow routines because they understand that time is too valuable to spend on indecision. Valuing time also means recognizing the cost of procrastination. Every time you delay a task, you are borrowing time from your future self. You may tell yourself that you will catch up later, but the truth is, later is never as easy as now. Work piles up. Stress builds. Deadlines close in. Procrastination does not only waste time, it steals your peace of mind. The opposite of procrastination is not working nonstop. It is simply starting early. When you start early, you spread the work over time. Instead of panicking the night before an exam, you prepare calmly over weeks. Instead of rushing an assignment, you complete it with care. That is the reward of valuing time. You exchange stress for confidence. But valuing time isn't just about academics. It's also about balance. A student who studies all day without rest is not truly valuing their time either. Rest, exercise, and social connection are all investments in your future success. When you take care of your body and mind, you make your study hours more productive. Wasting time is not the same as resting. Rest has purpose. It recharges you. Wasting time drains you without giving anything back. Understanding this difference helps you use time in ways that truly serve you. It is also important to recognize that time, once lost, can never be recovered. You can retake an exam. You can redo an assignment. But you can never relive the hours you wasted avoiding them. That is why successful students guard their time fiercely. They learn to say no to distractions. They set boundaries with friends. They choose to sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term rewards. Every choice is a trade. When you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to another. The students who value time choose to say yes to the things that bring them closer to their goals. Valuing time also changes the way you see opportunities. A student who understands the worth of time doesn't wait for the right moment to start. They start now with what they have. They know that waiting for the perfect conditions only wastes precious hours. They realize that success is built by those who act, not by those who wait. Every big achievement begins with a small step taken in the present. The more you honor your time, the more you take those steps without hesitation. Time is not just a resource, it is your life. How you spend your hours is how you spend your days, and how you spend your days is how you spend your life. The student who treats time as their greatest asset not only improves academically, they also prepare themselves for every challenge beyond the classroom. Because in the real world, just like in school, the ones who rise are not always the most talented, but the ones who respect the value of time and use it wisely. Build resilience through failure. Failure is one of the most feared words in the life of a student. From the time we are young, we are taught to avoid mistakes, to chase perfection, and to measure our worth by grades and results. A failed test, a low grade, or a rejection can feel like a crushing blow, as though it defines who you are. But the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. It is the training ground where resilience is built, and resilience is what ultimately makes you unstoppable as a student and in life. When you fail at something, you are given a choice. You can see it as the end, or you can see it as the beginning. Most students treat failure like a final judgment. They feel embarrassed, discouraged, and sometimes even give up. But the best students treat failure as feedback. They ask themselves, what went wrong? What can I do differently next time? What did this teach me about my weaknesses? In that moment, failure transforms from something that breaks you into something that builds you. Resilience is not about avoiding failure. It is about learning how to stand up again after it. Imagine falling down while learning to ride a bicycle. No one would say, I fell, so I'm not meant to ride. Instead, you get back up, adjust your balance, and try again until you master it. That is resilience. As a student, failing a test doesn't mean you're not smart. Struggling with a subject doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you are still learning, still growing, still finding your balance. Resilience allows you to keep moving forward even when progress feels slow. The reason resilience is so powerful is because it shifts your mindset from fear to growth. Without resilience, failure makes you afraid to try again. You begin to avoid challenges because you don't want to risk embarrassment. But with resilience, failure becomes fuel. You begin to welcome challenges, knowing that even if you stumble, you will rise stronger. Every failure becomes a stepping stone, every mistake a teacher, every setback a setup for a comeback. Think about the greatest minds and leaders in history. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Albert Einstein struggled in school before becoming one of the greatest scientists the world has ever known. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before her books changed millions of lives. What made them extraordinary was not that they never failed, but that they never stopped trying. Their resilience turned failure into a bridge toward greatness. For students, resilience begins with changing how you interpret mistakes. Instead of saying, I failed because I'm not smart, say, I failed because I didn't prepare well enough this time, and now I know how to prepare better. Instead of saying, I'm not good at this subject, say, I'm not good at this subject yet, but with practice I will improve. That one small word yet changes everything. It keeps the door open. It reminds you that failure is temporary, not permanent. Resilience also grows through practice. The more you face challenges, the stronger you become. Every time you overcome a difficulty, your confidence builds. It's like training a muscle. At first, it feels heavy, painful, and overwhelming. But the more you lift, the stronger you get. The same is true for your mind. Resilience is a mental muscle, and failure is the weight that strengthens it. Another key to building resilience is learning to separate your identity from your results. A bad grade does not mean you are a bad student. Struggling with one subject does not mean you are unintelligent. Failure is something you experience, not something you are. When you stop attaching your self-worth to your results, you gain the freedom to take risks, to experiment, and to learn without fear. Resilience is also built through perspective. When you zoom out and see the bigger picture, you realize that one bad test or one failed assignment is just a small piece of a much larger journey. Success is not defined by a single moment. It is defined by the collection of choices you make over time. If you give up after one failure, you miss the opportunity to see what could have been. But if you keep going, if you keep learning, that one failure becomes just another story in the long journey of your success. Failure also teaches humility. It reminds you that you don't know everything, that there is still more to learn, that growth never ends. Humility keeps you curious. It keeps you open to feedback, open to new strategies, open to becoming better. Without failure, success can make you arrogant. But with failure, success makes you grateful. At the heart of resilience is hope. Hope that tomorrow can be better than today. Hope that effort pays off. Hope that no mistake is ever final. When you hold on to that hope, resilience becomes second nature. You stop seeing failure as a wall, and you start seeing it as a door, sometimes locked, sometimes heavy, but always possible to push open if you keep trying. Every great student eventually learns that failure is not something to run from, but something to grow from. Each failure carries a lesson, and each lesson makes you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the next challenge. Failure is not the enemy. The real enemy is quitting. Resilience is the shield that protects you from giving up. And when you build resilience through failure, you unlock the strength to face anything that comes your way. The truth about being a better student is that it's not about chasing perfection. It's about building habits that last. Consistency teaches you to show up even when it's hard. Asking better questions turns information into understanding. Discipline ensures that you keep going long after motivation fades. Valuing time helps you invest in what truly matters. And resilience through failure reminds you that every setback is a step forward if you choose to learn from it. These 5 things are not quick tricks. They are not shortcuts. They are principles, timeless, unshakable, and available to anyone willing to embrace them. And the best part is, you don't need to wait for tomorrow to start. You can begin today, right now, with the way you study, with the way you manage your time, with the way you rise after mistakes. Because success is never about who is the smartest in the room. It's about who is the most consistent, the most curious, the most disciplined, the most respectful of time, and the most resilient in the face of failure. When you live by these 5, you won't just succeed as a student. You will succeed as a person who is prepared to take on the world.